What's good, y'all? I'm gonna be discussing something today. I basically had an informal dialectic with an otherworld debater who's one of the best there. His name's freedagoat. Basically, we had a discussion upon why he lost to Mono from the main com and why he practically didn't have any victory within that debate. It's basically a debate about modal realism, which is a part of modal logic and why it actualizes possibilities, which it would need a necessity truth for that. Anyways, going back to his discussion, basically in short terms, he basically tried saying that basically because Mono wasn't really Mono was apparently changing his arguments. I asked him to give me substance for that. He didn't give any substance except a claim. So how are we gonna logically and rationally observe this claim and go on why this would be the truth? If we want a logically sound argument, we're gonna need for a point of substance to go off to rationally conclude and logically appoint this claim to be the truth. We need a form of substance that would support that said claim. So that doesn't logically follow asserting a claim and expecting it to be the truth with no form of evidence behind it. That wouldn't be rationally the case, because through rationalism we need logical analysis and reason behind that with a substance to form a logical, reasonable conclusion. Since he didn't really give a substance for that, nor did he give evidence upon Mono shifting his arguments, we could basically say that he didn't really necessarily prove that Mono was doing this. And besides that, he was also arguing the fact that he was trying to argue that I was doing straw man fallacies, which is not the case. Straw man is basically when you misinterpret an argument on purpose, which I was addressing the fact that with a debunk, I was summarizing his argument in the case and just saying he was yapping about it. So because he yapped about it, yap could be derived from speech, for that. He was basically just saying stuff about Mono changed his arguments, and basically he tried to say this was a straw man, a misinterpretation, which it isn't really, not necessarily the case, because I'm really just asserting that he was talking and yapping about the fact that Mono was changing his arguments, which he didn't give substance for, so we could take it as yap and not necessarily give the truth. So because of this substance lacking, we can't logically or rationally say that it's gonna be reasonable to take it as truth. So logically speaking, when we assert these claims, we would need evidence or a form of substance that would give us reason and justification upon these rational claims, such as a logical claim of how somebody lost or a proposition. A proposition requires substance for it to be fulfilled as truth or false. A proposition can be true or false in these terms. It would need substance to go off that for the basis of the argument. A position would need basis. The basis wasn't really there because he didn't really justify anything behind his arguments. His justification were just claims, asserted claims with no evidence. The justification was basically him arguing based upon what he was describing, and we can't take it as the truth because there's no substance of the debate. So he would necessarily need substance of Mono doing said thing for it to be the case. We would need it empirically justified or proven, or intrinsically as well. So the fact he didn't follow through this would mean it's not rational to say that it's reasonable that Mono did this. So we could say Mono didn't do this and dismiss it as the case, more likely to be a case, because it's a prescriptive scenario. It's more likely the case that Mono would do this because there's no substance of the other case being proven. He would need to disprove Mono or this being the case, or more likely justify why it wouldn't. He didn't give any logical justification for why that isn't the case or anything, so we can also just interpret it as more likely the case for Mono basically suggesting otherwise than what Free is saying. Anyways, going part, he tried basically saying I was cherry picking the argument, didn't justify that. He couldn't track the argument all that well, is what I'm saying. And basically try to interpret personal skepticism and provided definitions which My definition is what he literally suggested, so it's kind of funny. Anyways, this is about it. Bye. So, since he didn't give any rational substance, we could say he didn't justify why Mono would do this and take it to be more probable that Mono would do the opposite of said action. He would need to justify why Mono did say this and provide substance for that. So, the fact is, he didn't justify the claim, he just asserted it, which he would need to provide evidence or basically, well, the substance for that thing. He tried referring to somebody having the recording, but that isn't substance. That's just saying something. We don't know if that's going to be the truth or not. That's called epistemological skepticism. How do we know that this is going to be the case of him having that recording? Because he's saying he probably has it, which means it could be the case that he doesn't. So this isn't fulfilling of justification or substance for that. So he also didn't really justify why I was misinterpreting the question or why I failed to reason with cherry picking. Somehow he said I was cherry picking when I'm addressing the arguments right now, and plus when I addressed it by saying I summarized this and that, so wasn't necessarily cherry picking. He was basically just like doing non sequiturs left and right and begging the question. The final part I'm going to be addressing is the point with definitions upon that basis. He tried saying that consensus meant to agree to disagree, which isn't the case because consensus defined by multiple appealing of definitions, even said his own, where he um, basically said appealing to the Latin origin, literally agreed with perception and agreeing with feeling to agree on some of a topic, which is what I suggested even with the definition. Anyways, I'm practically over with this. So basically, since like he's applying the fact that his definition is different from the one he sent, his definition was agreeing with mine, while he was suggesting a different one, which was his definition was agree to disagree, which contradict the one of agreeing to or perceiving with a feeling to agree to. It would basically contradict that. It'd be like saying yes and no at the same time, which falls under dialetheism. Dialetheism is basically true contradictions. So his own definition would be a true contradiction to the word itself. So we could say his definition would be an illogical one and not rational at all. So he didn't justify why that would be able to appeal to because his definition was different from that. So we would need to like justify why we should appeal to his definition or why we should take it as like the true definition. He didn't justify why it's valid. He just kept saying the like Latin origin, which is already proven to be the same one as mine. And after this, he disengaged. So basically upon this factor of what I'm suggesting is the fact that after he disengaged, he basically just conceded that point and just gave up the informal dialectic in which he lost. So basically he couldn't provide any rational substance, which he would have to justify the said substance for it to be the case, and basically failed to justify why Mono's arguments were changing. And I explained why it would be more likely the case for it not for Mono's arguments not changing. This would basically basically be a prescriptive scenario which would give justification as to why Mono wouldn't do it. So it's more likely that this would be the case. And he didn't justify why it wouldn't be the case. So the fact is that he wasn't able to disprove, refute, or do anything. He just kept evading the points. And the point was, I was arguing upon the point of the Cassettes disagreeing. He didn't attack those points. He basically just kept saying the definition of Cassettes. The Cassettes disagreed with him basically winning the debate. So I was arguing for the Cassettes and Mono. And this dude didn't attack it. He evaded it. So the point is that he basically failed to justify, didn't give any substance, and basically conceded by disengaging. So it's pretty bad out here. Anyway, see ya. So, anyways, he would be presupposing that Mono's arguments would be like this case. He would need to justify why it is. He would need to justify why this presupposition would be justified as truth. And since he's presupposing that fact, anyways, he pretty much lost. Yeah, bye.